ANC's Chaplain General, Reverend Vukile Mahana, will not officiate the party's annual January the 8th statement. The party has announced this, saying it's disappointed by the utterances of the veteran pastor. The Reverend was recorded in conversation with another man, questioning why a female reverend with large breasts was ordaining a male minister. Here is an excerpt in Khoza, which I will roughly translate into English afterwards.
African theologian. Whatever rubbish for me,
but how do we address that?
All right, he's essentially questioning whether women should be allowed to ordain other priests, and her breasts come up in that conversation. This is roughly what he's saying in English. What woman is this busy touching the chests of men? Leave the book. How do you feel about having a woman touching you, ordaining you? Let's look at Ubuntu. What do the wives of these men say watching their husbands being touched by a woman? We have to redo them. We will reaffirm them, call them again. So that he's talking about men who've been ordained by a woman, saying maybe they should be reordained because that doesn't count. Have you ever seen a boy anoint men? Which man has been anointed by a woman? I'm Tembu and an African theologist. I don't care what you call it patriarchy or gender insensitive. There is no man that has ever been anointed by a woman. Futsak. So to discuss, I'm joined by Bishop Malusi Mpulwana, who is the General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. The Council of Churches saying it's disgusted and shocked. You can add to that, perhaps, Bishop Mpulwana.
Absolutely, it's beyond imagination that a senior member church of the SABC would make pronouncements such as these. As far as we are concerned, it's not just a matter of the privacy that he believed he had, but actually the fact that anyone can pronounce that in any context at all. I mean, I remember a time when it was an easy thing in the apartheid days, for people to talk about kefas and coolies in what they considered to be private. And we don't allow that at all. Our Constitution stands against this dehumanization of people, but also the Christian faith itself, which is really the core for me, that is founded on the faith of two women, Mary, the mother of Jesus, whom we've just celebrated at Christmas, and Mary Magdalene, who announced the resurrection, which is the foundation of the Christian faith. Because of these two women, especially the breast of Mary that nursed and fed Jesus, you cannot be making disparaging remarks about women's breasts in society at all today, especially given everything we're living with in the gender-based violence in our society. So, Reverend Mahana's point about African theology is totally out of place. It has nothing to do with it, because every faith is clothed in every context in the culture. If it's Christians in Asia, Christians in Europe, Christians in Africa, there will always be the cultural trappings. But it is the gospel that comes through beyond the culture. And there is, in fact, if you're talking about African culture, you can say that there is more of zangomas that are female that instruct families and their men to do what they do in terms of their religiosity. So you cannot therefore use African culture, so to say, to defend this. It doesn't make sense at all.
And if this sort of sexism and patriarchy is displayed by a senior member of the church, I mean, what hope is there for changing those attitudes? And another thing, I mean, he must have been involved in so many public gatherings, speaking to so many people like this, other men perhaps. Is there a code of silence here?
Yes, absolutely. There's no question about the dominance of this language amongst males. We know that, and you know, the point is that therefore it's not unusual, but you wouldn't expect it of him. You expect that people like these in the senior positions would be the ones that call everyone else that practices and or pronounces this kind of patriarchy, but it's more than patriarchy. It's a human rights issue, which is why, in our view, it ought to be dealt with not only within the church, but also within the constitutional institutions of our country, because if it's not dealt with at that level, then there's no way to stop it anywhere else.
Yeah, well, we do have Bishop Siwa from the Methodist Church on the line. He's going to be joined, but first from you, Bishop Mpulwana, what do you expect the Methodist Church to do in dealing with this?
Well, we are grateful that the Methodist Church has decided right at the beginning of this to distance themselves from it, but also to declare that they will be instituting their own processes, which is the appropriate thing to do. We would not expect any less, and we believe that all churches that really believe in the gospel of Jesus Christ, who actually became who brought a difference in the treatment of women in the very patriarchal Jewish society of his time, they will know that they should deal with this kind of thing and nip it in the bud without equivocation.
Most churches, as far as I understand, allow women to be ordained and to ordain others at this point in time. Does your organization have any sort of official stance that is the way it should be amongst member churches?
Not at all. Some of them Catholic churches.
Of course, the Catholic Church, yes.
It does not have doctrinal prescriptions over member churches. We only require that they believe in the fundamental doctrine of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in the Trinity. But different churches have got different positions about how do you qualify to be ordained. But in the case of the Methodist Church, we know that they ordain women, and in this particular instance, it appears to me that this was a regular pastoral responsibility of a minister in a congregation to induct members of the men's guild, which is what this was about. And if that is the case, and it's a regular, you're actually almost suggesting that women ministers must have constraints about the kind of ministries they can exercise in their own congregations. And that's what is more disturbing in my view.
I think Christians and non-Christians are looking at this, many very disappointed. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say that maybe it is, while this is tragic, at the expense of a particular woman, whom I would hope that the Methodist Church would offer effective ministry to her and other women in the church. But I think that above that, if we do not have these instances coming out as they do, we will continue to believe that all is well. And I think that it is a good thing in a way that we have this problem, because it means we can use this as an example to deal with the phenomenon in our society. And I would hope that we know that it's not just about Christians. It is a phenomenon that's across all our society, which is why we've got such a huge problem with gender-based violence and the dehumanization of women in general in our society.
All right, thank you very much. That was Bishop Malusi Mpulwana, General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches, the umbrella body. We're now joined by Bishop Zipho Siwa, the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Southern Africa. Bishop Siwa, what would you say to those men and women, Christians, non-Christians, who are very sad about this?
Good evening. I think the first thing is to refer to the statement we issued immediately we heard about this incident. It is very unfortunate, it is uncalled for, and it does not represent the views of the Methodist Church. So as the Methodist Church, we distance ourselves from that and we condemn those utterances in the strongest possible sense. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, as Bishop Mpumlwana has said, in as much as this is as bad as it is, but it indicates how patriarchy is entrenched in society. And so therefore, I hope and pray that it will open transforming conversations, taking lessons from what has happened, because this is a very senior clergy person who got involved into this. I will not deal with the merits of the case because the processes of the church will deal with that. For instance, we'll have to understand what triggered this kind of conversation and what happened. So we'll leave that with the processes of the church.
Does it matter,
But,
Bishop? Does it matter what triggered this? Obviously, he's got deep-seated, long-held views that are coming out very clearly for everyone to understand.
Come again, I didn't hear you.
I said, does the context of the discussion matter? Because it's clear what he believes. He's got these long-seated views that are becoming clear.
I still don't understand what your question is.
Okay, you said that you have to understand the context of the discussion. There will be an investigation. I'm not understanding why.
Well, this is a senior member of the church. One, what triggered him to issue those utterances? Because he believes the policies of the church, and the church does not condone those utterances. What made
Bishop Siwa, can you hear me? All right, Bishop Siwa, if you can hear me, the line is very bad. We've basically lost you, so let's put down the phone and try and call you again. That was Bishop Zipho Siwa, the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Southern Africa. We'll try to get him up again. He has agreed that Reverend Mahana will not officiate the ANC's January the 8th statement, and I'd like to ask a bit more about that statement that they issued. Let's take a break.